Okay, so we're going to graph this cotangent curve. It's in the form y equals a cotangent bx. So it's going to have a stretch and a period change. Okay, so it says determine the stretch factor. So that's going to be 3, right? So the absolute value of a is 3. The period is going to be pi over the absolute value of 4, or pi over 4. And then it mentions the phase shift. There's no phase shift here. So no phase shift. Because c equals 0. So we could extend this to say y equals a cotangent bx minus c plus d. And d is also 0 this time, so there's no vertical shift either. Okay, and then they want us to sketch a graph. So we're really just going to be doing a period change and then a stretch. Okay, so the period is pi over 4. Now, you could squeeze this really, close together if I kept my normal scale, but I won't. I'll just mark it off, pi over 4. So we kind of have to draw it so that we can see it. You'll see this in the textbook as well. So the labeling is really important. 2 pi would be like way out here someplace. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to graph it 1 period over pi over 4. I can graph a second period if I need to, if they ask me to. Oops. Well, you got to have the pen on. Okay. If we did a second period, that would be the next pi over 4, which would be pi over 2. Okay, so if we wanted to do that, we could. All right. 1 period, though, is going to have our asymptotes. There's no phase shift here, so the asymptote's still going to be at 0. Then the next one's going to be at the end of the period, right? And then you'd have another one here if you wanted to graph 2 periods, okay? And then think about cutting it in half. So in half, that would be pi over 8. It's a little bit of fraction work here. And then this would be 3 pi over 8 if you wanted to do a second period. So just think about counting by pi over 8, each time. All right, and then we're going to get the graph in here. So I'm going to cut it in half again. That's where my reference angle, it's not a reference angle, but it's like the pi over 4, right? And so you're going to get 1 and negative 1. So, except it won't be 1 because we have a stretch factor of 3. So we need to go up 1, 2, 3, and down 1, 2, 3. Okay? So then we're going to have a point here, way up there. We'll have the point at 0, and then we'll have a point at, it's what, 3 pi over 16? I didn't write them in. And so it looks like this. And then you're going to cut this in half if you want to do a second period, and you're going to do a similar thing. You're going to have a point up here at 3, a point at 0 right there, and a point at negative 3 right down there. And then we draw it. It's kind of stretched out a little bit. We just do our best. Try not to let them, scare you. Just think about, having a period, and then if there's no phase shift, you can put in the asymptotes or the zeros, and you're going to mark off those 5 units, and that'll help you get your bearings for what the graph looks like. I think that's the easiest way to do it. So we sketched the graph, we found the stretching factor, the period, and there was no phase shift on this one. Okay.